Like, there is some footage going around of Stephen A. Smith pretty much confirming that the WNBA has killed the Caitlin Clark hype train.
Everyone's suspicions regarding how the WNBA handled Caitlin Clark's season have been confirmed by facts recently released by ESPN. Decisions taken by the league and Commissioner Kathy Angelbert deliberately harmed Clark's on-court experience and product. Additionally, the receipts are now being released, proving that the incompetence was not an accident. That it is no longer a matter of whether they failed her. It's whether they did it on purpose to uphold narrative control and defend the status quo. Do you believe that Caitlin Clark's season was intentionally mishandled by the WNBA, or were they simply inept? Leave a comment with your thoughts.
What's crazy about it all is that, a year ago today, well, not today, but a year ago, you would have never predicted or thought this could be the case. Caitlin Clark was the biggest name in all of sports. She had a run like no one could ever had imagined in sports. And I've been one true to the cause. I've been here since she played for Iowa. And as of right now, it's looking real bad, man. And I just hate this for Caitlin Clark, but something really struck my mind. Did the WNBA purposely kind of want to destroy the Caitlin Clark hype?
Let's examine what is truly being disclosed, since reports from ESPN and other media outlets depict a league that was either utterly inept or purposefully undermining its biggest player. On their own, the scheduling choices were unjustifiable. Compared to nearly every other club in the league, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever had worse travel arrangements and played more back-to-back games. It's not a coincidence. Those scheduling choices were made by someone, and they had a direct effect on Clark and her team's performance over the season. The league has data indicating that Fever games were generating enormous increases in viewership. In comparison to league averages, viewership figures skyrocketed during Caitlin's performances. Upon reviewing that data, any capable commissioner would promptly modify schedule to optimize those opportunities. Place Fever games during more convenient times to provide them with more appearances on national television, lessen their travel expenses so that Clark can deliver her finest performance, and put on the greatest spectacle possible. That didn't occur. Rather, the Fever resulted in harsh travel schedules and games that were hidden on streaming services, making them inaccessible to casual fans.
To the WNBA, and she was viciously attacked by players within the first 2-3 games she was allowed to play in. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert did nothing. Then we just heard months later from Fisa Collier saying that Caitlin Clark needs to thank the WNBA for even having a league.
A pattern of downplaying Caitlin's significance and attempting to give credit to other players who weren't making the same impact can also be seen in Commissioner Kathy Angelbert's public remarks throughout the season. Every time Angelbert conducted an interview, she made care to highlight a number of players and discuss how the league's expansion was a team effort. That is theoretically accurate in that a league requires a number of talented players, but it is also purposefully deceptive because one guy was obviously the main source of the extra attention and money. Another significant failing that is currently being explored more publicly was the officiating situation during the season. Defenders were allowed to play extremely physical defense against Caitlin Clark as she was being pummeling on the floor, and the opposing team was being called for touch fouls. Anyone watching could see the discrepancy, but the league never publicly acknowledged it or seemed to try to fix it. This had a direct impact on Clark's performance and well-being, since opponents knew they could be violent with her without facing repercussions. Probably the most damning discovery is that the league's top star was not shielded from risky plays. Throughout the season, Clark was hit with several egregious fouls or risky moves that ought to have led to suspensions or severe fines. The league's reaction was constantly inadequate. Veteran players received modest penalties, little bans, if any, and public remarks that appeared to be more focused on avoiding upsetting established players than on safeguarding the person who was genuinely generating income and attention.
Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off the bench.
The Kennedy Carter hip check incident is a prime illustration of the league's shortcomings. That was an intentional low-cost shot unrelated to basketball. Under the pretext of competition, it was an assault, and the league's reaction was pitiful. A little fine and a general sportsmanship comment. There would be no actual repercussions, no punishment, and no indication to other players that such behavior would not be accepted. IT made it clear to everyone in the league that pursuing Caitlin Clark was acceptable and would not lead to severe consequences.
Listen to him.
Caitlin Clark is the cash cow. She is box office. When she plays, the ratings go up, revenue goes up, interest goes up. When she doesn't play, it plummets. 36% drop in the ratings for All-Star Weekend for the WNBA a few weeks ago.
36% drop in the ratings, guys. This was back in July. This was in July. See, y'all remember I was telling y'all it was a steady decline? Now we know Caitlin Clark never came back. She never came back, guys.
Last year, she didn't miss a game. This year, she missed 17 games. This is a person that everything she touches with women's basketball turns to gold. They didn't have chartered jets until she arrived. She arrived, they had chartered jets 2 weeks later.
Internal league communications and decisions are now being revealed by ESPN's investigation, demonstrating that this wasn't an accident. The gap in Clark's treatment and officiating was known to league authorities. They had information demonstrating the effect on attendance and ratings. They were aware of player grievances and worries regarding the hostile setting. Additionally, they refrained from taking strong action since doing so would have contradicted the league's intended narrative about equality and satire by acknowledging that one player was more significant than the group. Another piece of this puzzle that now makes more sense is the Olympic team's rejection. The WNBA and USA Basketball collaborate closely. Furthermore, it is obvious that politics rather than basketball merit played a role in the decision to exclude Caitlin from the Olympic team, even though she is among the world's greatest players. Protecting experienced players and upholding the current power structure were the goals of the league and its establishment figures. Caitlin's inclusion on the Olympic squad would have put egos and legacies in jeopardy, since it would have acknowledged that she had outperformed some of those veterans in terms of effect and skill.
Talk about it. It's no secret that the WNBA, Allura, and the whole, obsession of it all is just starting to die down. To me, I noticed it on Twitter first. A lot of big name Twitter people wasn't big no more. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't getting all them retweets. They wasn't getting all them hearts on their Twitter, and eventually they quit tweeting.
These decisions were coordinated rather than isolated, according to what ESPN is saying. The Olympic snub, inconsistent officiating, poor reactions to risky plays, scheduling problems, and the commissioner's public statements all suggest a calculated plan to control Caitlin Clark's ascent in order to keep it from upending the league's established order. The issue is that fans aren't stupid, which is why that plan failed miserably. Instead of accepting the league's favored story, they became enraged when they saw what was going on. These failures have tremendous financial ramifications. A generational talent that was generating previously unheard of attention and revenue growth fell into the WNBA's lap. They actively fought against their own interests to protect the feelings and egos of players who weren't making quite the same impact, rather than taking advantage of that by promoting her, protecting her, and growing the league around her appeal. That goes beyond simple ineptitude. That is political and ideological self-sabotage. The league ought to have taken notice when the social media valuation study revealed that the Fever's accounts were valued at $55 million, while those in second place were valued at $8 million. In terms of fan interest and engagement, the disparity is so enormous that it is indisputable that Caitlin Clark operates in a whole separate stratosphere than everyone else. After seeing that information, a capable league office would quickly reorganize everything to maximize that value. Rather, the WNBA persisted in acting as though Clark is merely one of many stars, and that everyone makes an equal contribution. That it's disheartening to compare how other sports leagues treat their celebrities. LeBron, Steph Curry, and other celebrities are the focus of whole NBA marketing campaigns. The NFL always features elite quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. These leagues actively promote their stars, even if it means certain players receive less attention, because they recognize that casual viewers need celebrities to relate to. The WNBA's capacity to develop is being killed by its refusal to adopt that tried-and-true model due to ideological concerns to establishing hierarchy.
I believe the WNBA wanted this to happen. They never wanted the attention of Caitlin Clark. They never wanted any of this because they just simply was not prepared for it. I just have to be honest with you guys. I don't think the WNBA was prepared for the catalyst that came with Caitlin Clark. And hell, I'm starting to believe Caitlin Clark wasn't even prepared for it. No one could have predicted how largely, loved and, sought after Caitlin Clark was going to be coming into this league. No one could have predicted all of the millions of views that the games was going to garner, the charter flights that got switched up, the, private hotel rooms, everything pretty much changed within 2 weeks of Caitlin Clark coming into this basketball.
The fact that this wasn't difficult is really annoying. The secret to success was clear. Keep your biggest star safe from risky moves and poor officiating. Provide her team a good schedule so she can provide her best effort. Give her a lot of media and commercial attention. Create narratives centered on her accomplishments and character. Place her games during prime time so that the greatest number of people may see them. Each and every one of those items would have accelerated the league's growth and increased income. Nearly all of them were the opposite of what the WNBA accomplished. The revelations also reveal internal resistance from players and their representatives who complained to the league about Caitlin gaining too much attention. The league reportedly attempted to placate those players by downplaying Clark's influence and refusing to give her special treatment even when it made financial sense, rather than informing them that the attention was earned through performance and marketability. That's giving the prisoners control over the asylum. Catering to the grievances of employees who aren't creating value won't help you establish a successful business. The current investigation into the officiating controversy involving NBA referees and gambling has also given the WNBA's officiating problems a fresh perspective. What makes anyone believe that WNBA referees weren't under equal pressure if NBA referees were being swayed by gambling interests or league orders to handle games in particular ways? In light of the more general disclosures on referee influence, the patterns of uneven officiating that especially targeted Clark throughout the season appear even more dubious. Given her experience in business, Commissioner Angelbert ought to have been more cognizant of these problems. She was from DOD, where she worked at the top levels in business strategy and finance. She ought to realize that, in order to avoid upsetting other people, you should make the most of your most valued assets rather than purposefully minimizing them. Her inability to manage the WNBA using fundamental business concepts points to either ineptitude or a conscious decision to put other factors ahead of expansion and profit. Examining the media's involvement in all of this is also worthwhile. Throughout the season, ESPN and other media sources helped to spread the league's chosen narrative. They told tales that focused more on group development than on Clark's personal influence. They covered players who weren't producing comparable outcomes equally. They sidestepped difficult inquiries concerning player safety and officiating. Now that the season is finished and some of these mistakes are evident, the media is willing to cover the real story. That fortunate timing implies that they were aware of it all along, but decided not to cause any trouble. The consequences of these mistakes on a global scale are also important. The WNBA is attempting to expand internationally, but how they handle their brightest players sends a negative image to viewers and potential investors abroad. Why would sponsors invest in a league that purposefully undercuts its most appealing athlete? When the league hides its finest content on obscure streaming channels, why would foreign broadcasters pay for game rights? These choices harm not only Caitlin Clark, but also the league's capacity to expand beyond its present small viewership. The contrast between Unrivalled's approach to courting Caitlin and the WNBA's treatment of her is also instructive. She was offered $1 million in league equity by Unrivaled. Having the biggest stars is the cornerstone of their entire marketing approach. They are aware that if you want to be successful, you must reward and advance your most valued talent. While expecting her to be appreciative of the opportunity, the WNBA compensated her $78,000 and mistreated her. That comparison demonstrates how outdated the WNBA strategy has been. Fans are aware that Caitlin is being exploited by leagues and players who don't genuinely respect or value her, as evidenced by the poll that shows 77% of fans don't want her to compete in Unrivaled. They have had enough of seeing her create value for individuals and institutions that mistreat her.